Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another daily devotion. I'm Pastor Roy here at Woodlawn Christian Church, and this devotion is being recorded for Tuesday, June 14th of 2022. We are in the 18th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. We are just getting to chapter 18, and things are changing a little bit. We've kind of take a change of direction here, and the disciples are coming to Jesus and questioning about who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Seems like a crazy question. Jesus is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. But as we get into chapter 18, we have to make a decision about how far we go in this first bite. And that's what I wrestled with all day today. Do I go all the way to 14? Do I stop at 9? Do I stop at 7? Do I stop at 6? But I decided to take the break that the NRSV UE, the updated edition, takes, and they stop at verse 5, and it's called True Greatness. So let's take a look at that, and we'll pick up tomorrow with verse 6, and probably go to from 6 to 9 tomorrow is what I'm thinking. That could change. Things can change. So let's look at these first 5 verses in 18. At that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a child whom he put among them and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Okay. All right. And here, this is all about humility, isn't it? It's about being the absence of ego, jettisoning the ego, because we have to remember that this is talking about children in Jesus' time, not talking about children per se necessarily. We have children in this day and age that have very inflated egos because of the way they've been spoiled rotten and the way they've been raised. They've been raised without any kind of rules or any kind of correction. I see that in youth group, though my kids this last year were wonderful kids. They're great kids, with the exception of maybe one or two. But they were good kids overall. But we do have this problem today that some kids are not given proper instruction. They're not given good parental guidance, and that's a problem. And part of that is due to society today removing the ability of the parents to correct the children and to control their own children. But we won't get into that. It's about the attitude of the children. Children in that day and age, definitely, children were treated differently. Maybe not treated well in sometimes ways we would think, but they understood that they were not the end all of the thing. They're not what controlled the family. The father figure, the mother figure, those were the ones in control of the family, and the children knew it. They knew who was in control. And we come to God as one knowing that God's in control. We know that God is the one that is in control. We are not the greatest. It's not about us. It's not about our ego. It's about God. God is in control. It's the kingdom of heaven. Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? God. Jesus. End of discussion. It's not even a debate. We don't need to worry about it. Is Peter greater than John? John greater than Peter? Roy greater than whoever? We're not. We're nothing. We're in comparison to God. We are there to worship God. We are there. It's not about us. And that's a hard pill, I think, for modern society to swallow, because in this day and age with the internet and everything, with the social media and the likes and all of that, the hearts and whatever you have in the various social media, it's all about us. And we all want our 15 minutes of fame, and we all want to be built up onto a pedestal. And that's not what it's about. It's about humility. It's about being prostrate before God, understanding that we come to God in absolute humility. And I've talked before in sermons about in the Search for the Holy Grail, the Indiana Jones movie, where he's looking for the cup of Christ from the Last Supper. And it's it's mythology the way that they present it. Of course, it's not, or it's a story, I should say. Not it's a story the way it's told. It's not real about the knight from the Round Table guarding it and all of that. Makes for a good story. But the point is that at one point in that, Indiana Jones is reading these clues, and it says that a penitent man shall pass. Well, it's a booby trap that's going to come out and lop off his head if he's not down on his hands and knees. And just before the blade comes out that chops off his head, he says, a penitent man kneels before God. And he kneels down, and the blade over his head, and he gets through. And that's the point. You need to understand that we are to be humble in the presence of God. We are to be present, humble to each other, where ego has no place in the kingdom of God. That's a difficult thing, again, for us in this day and age, difficult for me, but we all need to wrestle with it. We all need to confess it. We all need to understand. And part of that being humble is to, now this kind of deviates a bit from the children, because I don't know that children even understand their sins. That's the age of innocence. That's why we as Baptists and disciples have the age of innocence. We don't believe that children can process their idea of sin. But that also is going to fall into what we talk about tomorrow. So I want to be careful I don't go too far on that. But we need to be willing, as our humility and our humbleness, to accept our sin and confess our sin. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, though. We'll leave it with stay tuned. Part 2 tomorrow. All right. With that, I'm going to let you go for today. Have a very, very blessed day. And please, 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 as I always say, be a blessing to someone today. We'll see you tomorrow. And we'll be at the middle of June already. God bless. Bye-bye.